Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Raihan, and now we're watching the Codevcast. So today we have another special guest. He's really far from my location. He's from US, and his name is Paul. So let's, any further ado, please welcome to Paul. Hello, Paul.
Hey, how are you? Hi, yes, my last name is a little weird. It's
Mohit
Mojica.
Mogica.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, my name is Paul Mojica. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the U.S. I am a software developer, tech lead at a financial company here in the U.S. I have been doing software development for approximately 18 years. And I've kind of ran the gambit of different jobs. I started out as network administrator, then went on to kind of full stack, and the last 3 or 4 years have been primarily focused on the front end.
Okay, so uh, your name is Paul Mojica, your full name, right?
Yes, correct. Yes,
Do I pronounce correctly?
that's correct. Yes, sir.
So, how are you doing? I mean, how is your
Good.
family? How's the situation there? The COVID?
Yes, family is good. The situation, we can't complain. The economy is kind of not great right now, but we're doing good. We're very lucky to just everybody's healthy and safe, so that's always good.
Good, thank God.
Yes.
I mean, like, I'm seeing your profile, crossing your profile. You have been had had such wonderful experiences. Like now you are working as senior. So maybe you can tell us how you achieved it. I mean, what's the story behind it?
Yes, absolutely. So I come from a more non-traditional background, I would say. I did not get my first computer until I was 17, a senior in high school here in the United States. Um, and I got that computer, and it was mostly to do kind of reports and that sort of thing. So my mother, she said, well, when you go to college, you should study computer science and computer engineering. So I said, okay, that sounds good. So when I went to college, I was I lived my first year in the engineering dorm, and I was in over my head. My roommates, they had been tinkering with computers since, it felt like since they were very, very young. And I had only, had a computer for a year or so. And I came, to my dorm. I had my, here in the United States, we have a store called Best Buy. And so they're kind of the big box store. They sell just tons of just computers with a bunch of software
Mm.
on it. So I got a computer that did not have a network interface card. So I couldn't even get, internet connection,
Yeah.
and no idea how to even install one. So I was very lucky. They kind of, they helped me out installing it and getting me up to speed. So fast forward 4 years later, I graduated from school, and I ended up getting a position at uh, it was a concrete company. So I would have never known all of the software that is involved running a concrete plant. So with there, we had to set up kind of a network within these very, very dusty and kind of old offices that are on concrete sites. And we had to set up all the networks and such for that. Um, and what my kind of, after we set that up, the management said, well, let's go ahead. We've got all of these processes that we're doing by hand. Is there any way you think you can automate these? And so I started with Visual Basic. So taking Excel spreadsheets and just doing some manipulations on the manual work they were doing. I created, a macro in Visual Basic to just have them, because it was very repetitive work. They would go and they would edit a cell, they would calculate all the numbers, and then just do that for every row in the spreadsheet. So I just automated that. They were very impressed with it. So then I went ahead and I wrote some software in Java to keep track of our fleet, our trucks, and that sort of thing. And this is when I lived in Florida, and our company was purchased by a bigger company whose IT headquarters was in North Carolina. And I moved to North Carolina, did a lot of reporting software, kind of middleware type of work on the back end. And yeah, just kind of just grew from there. I feel like it was such a long journey for starting at kind of just not even knowing how to install a network interface card to then going and just writing just writing kind of more enterprise level apps.
Okay, so basically you don't have like parents have background in technology or families with background technology?
No. My mother was a nurse, and my father, he was older than my mother, and he was actually he worked at a company called Dow Jones, which was they did a lot of chemical work in the U.S. here. So nothing technical with my parents at all. My mother, she would always not even know how to turn the computer on. So I was like, it's in the back. You just press in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. Also remembering that remember my first application was built in Visual Basic. It was like crude application, simple application. So what's the first your application that you have built?
Yeah, so the first one that was an actual application and not an Excel spreadsheet was a fleet management piece of software. I used Java and Java NetBeans, and what it was it would connect to our SQL server, and it would keep track of when the trucks had to go and do maintenance. So we had a fleet of concrete trucks that needed, we needed to keep track of when the maintenance was due on these trucks. So I created just something for the concrete dispatchers to say, oh, this truck is going gonna go to maintenance. So they put the date on when it was getting maintenance done, and then we would get an alert 30 or 60 days later, depending on the truck, that said it needed to go into maintenance again. So there was a report that is printed out every morning to let us know which trucks needed to go into maintenance.
So it was on your college, in college?
No, this was actually in the workforce. In college, We did in college. I had one big project that was a voting system. So it was written in Visual Basic also, and it was to create an application we built from the ground up with the database layer and the uh, the front end and middle tier of it to keep track of voting, and just keep track of it and have it spit a report, generate a report at the end on a button click. It was fairly straightforward, and it was just something that was probably that was my first one.
So that you mentioned the front end and then like Visual Basic, how you like find your passion that I think I'm gonna more like to back end or front end. How do you find that way?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I believe I found my passion for the front end when I was at a company called Siemens, and we had to rewrite a Silverlight application into Angular. And it was, Silverlight was just announced that they were no longer going to be supported. And Angular JS was the current version of Angular. We did some initial writing on it, and we found the performance was too slow. So we decided to jump right into Angular. And when it was still in beta, so this was before the CLI, we were doing our builds with System.js and doing the TSC, the TypeScript compiler with the watch flag, to do the hot reloading. And I fell in love with kind of just the way that Angular was written and kind of the patterns around it. It reminded me very much of web forms, in that you have your kind of your templating, which is your HTML, and then web forms had like kind of like a code behind, which was the server side code, which was the C# piece of it. And on Angular, it's your TypeScript file. And just the way you can like set up bindings and that sort of thing from your template to your TypeScript file and back. I just that mental model just fit kind of how I thought about things. And just the way the fluidity of getting something and getting it working, and then that constant iteration of making sure, like, oh, how do we want the screen to look? How do we want it to be responsive? And that instant feedback of the hot reload. And you make a save a file, and you see the screen automatically compile and update. Whereas back then with Visual Studio, you had to stop, then rerun, rebuild, and then see your screen. So it was to me kind of is a beautiful thing to see. That you make a change and immediately get to see it on the screen.
Yes, exactly. So actually, basically, you are the like visual person, right? Like more like to the UI, user interface, and then the Angular one is a good framework for me. It's easy to learn. I mean, for the Angular 4, I guess, but right now, when I see Angular, it's so much like learning curve. It's really hard, because the TypeScript.
Yes, it's a lot. It has a lot of, like you said, learning curve. But I feel like after you've been in a while, and for me, I came up in that strictly typed language, where everything is strictly typed and you've got that design pattern of the whole separation of concerns, and that sort of thing, and dependency injection. All of this to me made sense. But I could see where you're coming from with, having everything in modules, declaring all of your components in those modules, and knowing that services that are injected into your components, you need to provide them somewhere. That is a bit of a hurdle, I feel like, for a lot of people getting into Angular, especially coming from other frameworks. I believe the Angular team is actually doing a great job of lessening the curve. First came the CLI, and then now I believe the next version of Angular, they're talking about possibly doing, I think they're calling it single component loading or something like that, where you don't actually have to declare the component in the module, and you just have some syntax in your component that's going to go ahead and let you load your component right away without having to declare it in a module. So that's the one thing I really like about Angular, is that I feel like they were bit when they went from Angular JS to Angular proper, because a lot of people they've got a lot of feedback, negative feedback,
Yeah.
that it no longer works. What are you guys doing? And so I feel like they've really upped the tooling and using ng update and that sort of thing. I feel like they are going above and beyond with the tooling. I think they've got the best tooling out of all the frameworks, to be honest.
Exactly. Many reasons that's so good for Angular. One is like the structuring for the Angular is really good, like clean. So, are you still working with Angular right now at the office?
So I am. We're actually the project that I'm on now is we had a greenfield application to write a native application, and we're using our Angular and Ionic and Capacitor to use web technologies to build a native application. So we're using NGRX as our state management. And I've actually demoed out using, are you familiar with Narwhal with NX?
Narwhal, yes, I know.
Okay. Yes. So we're using Narwhal with the mono repo pattern to share our libraries between our native application and our web application, which is also Angular. So we've split the business logic and the presentational logic completely apart. And we're hoping in the future we can rewrite pieces of our web application to utilize the code that we've written on the native app, because we've completely decoupled the business logic with the presentational logic. So now we have a library that, because our web application is pretty much has the same functionality as our mobile application. So, but the difference is the web application has all of the business logic inside of the components. So we couldn't reuse all the code that was already written. With the mobile app, we were able to just completely split it. And now we're using things like async pipe and then a localized component store that is just grabbing data, populating that data on the screen and using something like async pipe on the template. And any type of interaction, we would update the observable to get that reactive screen, the screen to reactively populate based on the user interaction. and now we can share that between our web app and our native app. So that's kind of the piece that we're working on. We're actually using the company that I'm at, which is Charles Schwab. We have a component library that's built on web components, and it's using Stencil.js as the framework there to create the web components. We're building a library around that, an Angular library that we can also share between our native application and our mobile application, so that we can eventually have that same look and feel across all of our different apps. We currently have 2 different applications, and then our native application. But we just want to make sure that no matter where our users are, which application they're hitting, it's going to have that same look and feel across the board.
So the company fully using the Angular.
The division that I am, yes, we are all using Angular. There's different divisions, different groups that are using React. We are full on Angular with microservices, C# backend.
Amazing, really awesome. So what actually the main role, main responsible for you as a senior developer?
Yeah, I'd say probably my number one responsibility, other than getting our native application to market, is making sure that all of our different teams are all kind of following this pattern that we've done with the native application, and making sure. So we have 4 different teams. We have my team that is currently in Charlotte. We have a team that's based out of Raleigh, North Carolina, another team based out of Austin, Texas, and then a 4th team that is offshore based out of India. And so my role is to kind of get a broad understanding of what the other teams are working on and make suggestions to see if we can move towards this more RxJS, NGRX heavy pattern of using reactivity through injected services, and just completely splitting out the business logic and the UI components. That way that whenever one team is working on a feature, if it's for web, it's something that can easily be ported into our native application and vice versa. So we don't have to rewrite the same code over and over in different applications. That's probably my primary responsibility right now, is making sure that there's that common style guides, common kind of, if somebody were to look at the code base, they would see consistency between all of our different apps and all the different places in the code base.
Oh, I see. It's heavy responsibility. Maybe if you open hiring, you can ask.
Yeah, no, it's definitely we just hired on 2 great guys last year, and I have a feeling we will be hiring more soon. So I'll let you know on LinkedIn, and let you know if you know anybody or anything like that.
So maybe people out there, a listener out there, haven't known about like front end, back end. Do you have any tips or advice for people or developers to learn something like really you like?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice would be, if you have the time to do it, I would say constantly learn, constantly look up YouTube videos. Those are free, and just I listen to a lot of podcasts to kind of get a high level of things. And once you start learning some of these things, just try to put together just a side project that just maybe something that doesn't have to be super complex, but just get your get your feet wet on seeing if you can implement what you've just learned. I do a lot of side projects on GitHub, so a lot of things that I hear about or I want to take a look at seeing if I can implement. I just spin up a quick project and try to see if I can get it to work, and then maybe build off of that to see if I can make it more complex, more complicated. That's probably one of my biggest pieces of advice. Another one is just for mental health. If you feel like you're burning out, because I've been there before. I've definitely felt like I've been coding too much. And so there's nothing wrong with taking a break, taking a couple weeks, taking a month, taking a couple months, just to recharge your battery. And I found that whenever I come back, after maybe taking that little bit of break on my side projects, I get that that joy again to be learning new things and that sort of thing. So that's probably my two big advice.
Work-life balance. Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's really time flies. Maybe the last question. So what's your next hopes or your next achievement that you want to pursue?
Yeah. So I really want to get kind of more content out there. I've been trying to write more, but I've been really inconsistent about it. So I find that learning things, it helps me to write about it a little bit, because then it forces me to make a deeper dive into what I'm learning, and also request feedback from the community and see what did I get right, what did I get wrong in the things that I'm writing. So really just creating more content out there, just through video or through blogs. And I want to eventually start streaming, either if it's YouTube or I'm not sure if you're familiar with Twitch.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So Twitch is another thing that I want to eventually do. And kind of, I still actually don't even have a portfolio website. That's probably another thing on my list, is to create a portfolio website. So there's just never enough time, I feel like.
I'm waiting your blog. I mean, like your YouTube, you should do that. Create YouTube. Do another collab with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can do some kind of a coding YouTube kind of.
Yes,
program.
I guess. Yes, another topic, like if this is good, we can bring it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really nice advice and that story from Paul Mojica. So because the time is really over, I think. Thank you, Paul, for coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate what you're doing here. So
I'm really appreciate.
Yeah.
So that's it for today, guys. Stay healthy and see you in the next episode. I'm Raihan, and bye bye. Salam. Peace.
Thank you. See you.